Hey, okay, I need to turn the light on. Now that makes it worse. All right. Hey, everyone. You'd think I'd have my act together if I was going to do these things, but joke's on you. I never have my act together. So, I want to try to make some more of these videos. I like making videos on YouTube here, trying to talk about like writing stuff, reading stuff, and just, I don't know, just doing it is kind of fun to me. But the editing process, it kind of takes a lot of time. It kind of sucks the fun out of it for me. So I'm trying live streaming, see if that'll help me, um, do it more regularly and, uh, make better stuff for you all that you all would actually like to watch. Uh, and as I was looking back on the book that I wrote, Individual Christianity, and some of the things I mentioned in the book, I realized how that I had talked about trading card games, getting into a hobby or whatnot. Let me pull the camera down. This is not great to do live, but let me see if pulling it down works a little. Nah, it'll stay here. Um, Getting into trading card hobby, it kind of caused some conflict with like some friends, some family I had, whatnot. Like some, just not a lot of people like the fact that I was getting into a trading card game, and so I realized looking back on it though, actually getting into that trading card game hobby kind of helped me get back into writing a little bit more. And so that's what I want to talk about is how Magic the Gathering has helped get me back into the game of Magic the Gathering has helped me get back into writing. And before I give you that exact story, uh, I want to explain to you all what I think the cool part of Magic the Gathering is to me. Like, if for those of you who don't know, it's a trading card game. It's probably the oldest one around. It's at least the oldest, most popular one in the United States that I know of. Uh, Started back, well, I think a little bit before I was born, maybe the year after I was born, something like that. But to me, the cool part of Magic the Gathering is like it's really like me pitting my creativity against yours. Like the the rules of the game are the same for everybody. Like if you're playing standard, you have a 60 card deck where you can only have 4 of a copy of a card. Like you only have 4 of the same card in the deck outside of basic lands. And everybody's given the deck building restrictions within that. And my cat's trying to cause a problem on stream. Um and So I make a 60 card deck, you make a 60 card deck, and we play Magic the Gathering together to see if my mono red deck can beat your mono black deck, or like can my dinosaurs beat your zombies. Like that's pretty much what Magic the Gathering is. And I really love that part of it of I get to use my creativity to follow the rules and build a deck and then compete with that deck against other people who had done the same thing. And I love that part of Magic the Gathering. There's so many other things that are cool about it, but I really love the deck building and playing the game aspect of it. I don't have the money or the patience for the collecting side of it, so I love the deck. I love building decks and playing with people. Um, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. I've kind of gone a little off overboard with it. Um, but I've also, as I've engaged in the hobby of Magic the Gathering, I've noticed there are quite a few benefits to playing trading card games like Magic the Gathering. Like, I mean, a big one is it forces you to be social. You cannot play Magic the Gathering alone. You can't play Pokemon, Flesh and Blood, Lorcana, like all the trading card games that are out there. You have to physically sit down in front of somebody else or 3 other people and play the game around somebody else. You cannot play Magic the Gathering alone. I mean, you can goldfish, you can like part deck building, just playing the deck by yourself to see if it works without any interaction stuff. Like, okay, there are some parts of it that you can do by yourself. But as far as like playing Standard, playing Commander, playing Canadian Highlander, with all these formats of Magic you can play, you have to be around other people. And that's a great social outlet for nerds is like, "Hey, I wanna play this fun thing," and playing Magic forces you to do that to play that game around other nerds, and it's a fun time. And another thing it does is it kinda teaches you to be a good loser, because the people who are professional Magic the Gathering players only have a win rate of, like, maybe 60%. I don't think any of them have a win rate over 70%. So, like, learning that off the bat, you have to realize that, like, you have effectively a 50-50 shot of winning, if it's just a 1v1. Now, when you're playing Commander where it's a person game, you're starting off with having a 1 in 4 chances of winning. And I every time I teach somebody to play Magic, I tell them, especially while you're learning, you have to be okay with losing all the time, because there's a lot of rules, there's a lot of exceptions to the rules. It's like the English language, and, like, you have to learn how the interactions work, the phases work, how, tapping mana, untapping mana, all that stuff. Like, it's a lot to learn on top of, like, like, say somebody's more expensive deck could beat my less expensive deck. There's a reason cards are the price they are, and the fact that I think this deck costs like $75 if you were to buy it straight up. Somebody could bring their $800 deck and just stomp all over mine. Whereas somebody who's been playing the game for 15, 20 years is going to be more skilled at the game than I am and most likely beat me 80% of the time, if not 95% of the time. It happens a lot. In fact, last Friday at Friday Night Magic, I taught somebody how to play Magic, and I told him that about, like, you have to be okay with losing a lot, especially learning, because it's how the game works. It's complicated. You're not gonna know all the interactions and stuff. You're gonna make mistakes. Like, just you have to be okay with losing a lot, as long as you have fun doing it. And I promptly went and got my butt handed to me playing Standard, because everybody else did the same thing to me. So, that's a good thing about it. You can't be a sore loser and play the game, because nobody's gonna wanna play the game that you love to play with you if you're just gonna be a sore loser all the time. So, it's a good moral lesson to learn there in the game. And also, it gives you an avenue to be around people you might not be around. Like, being born and raised in the church, like, I haven't been exposed to that many alternative lifestyles, whatever you wanna call it. They're just I've mainly been around of a lot of church people, or and then there's people I work around and whatnot, working in, like, metal stamping companies, warehouse stuff, delivery driver, all that stuff. So I am around I do get around other people, but predominantly a lot of my social life has been around church people. And getting into Magic the Gathering and playing at local game stores, yeah, it's exposed me to a lot of other people who live other lifestyles, and I've got to make friends with those people, and I wouldn't have met them otherwise if it wasn't for this game of Magic the Gathering. So there's a lot of good benefits to playing Magic the Gathering or trading card games. Not that you have to justify having a hobby, but those are some things in my head that I've come to realize over the however many years I've been playing this game. But so my Magic journey started all the way back in, like, 2020. My oldest brother got married, like, 2 months before the COVID lockdowns happened. And while we were up there in Virginia for his wedding, he had brought out a couple of those Magic the Gathering decks, and I was like, "Hey, teach me how to play that. That was curious." And he did, and I promptly lost all the games we played, but I had fun doing it. The game felt fun. I liked how it worked. I liked the idea of the thing. So, we got home, and sooner or later I bought a welcome deck that's effectively still, well, two decks that are effectively still together somewhat over there. I actually need to touch those things up, work on them a little bit more. And I started using those decks to learn how to play the game, and watching some YouTube stuff and just messing with those. Then eventually, one one of my other brothers got me a for my birthday that year, got me a commander deck. This one here that I still have together of this is for you nerds that care. The Obun, that is not going to pick it up right there. Obun, Mold, Dia, Ancestor, Landfall, Naya Landfall stuff. I love this deck. Still have it together. Still play it occasionally, but it's almost at the point where I can't play it too much because if I'm not around the right play group, I tend to stomp everybody with that deck because of how long I've had it and stuff. And eventually, I bought a couple months from that. I bought second commander deck, Lathril Blade of Elves. You know, growing up on Lord of the Rings and whatnot, I've always loved elves, love the society and or the kind of, I don't know, the culture, the mythos around elves. So I just had to get this. I still have the as you can see, I still have the deck to this day. I love it. I love playing the deck, love upgrading it because I will always print elves in every set. Um but as I got those decks, was learning how to play the game. I would sporadically play every once in a while with somebody who might want to learn, or like my brothers who, when I'm around them, we would play. Um, and but when I was at home, I would just like fidget with the cards. I would just sit around, read the cards, fidget with them, organize them, and all that. I need to learn how to do this stuff on screen. But and I would just read the cards, try to understand them. I would try like goldfish or just play the deck out myself. And eventually that morphed into like Saturday mornings doing that. A way I relaxed on Saturday mornings and just kind of warmed myself into the weekend was just fidgeting with the magic cards, trying to build commander decks, like all of that stuff. And I that's where I really unlocked my love for deck building was sitting down, looking at the cards that I had and trying to figure out how can I make this an effective deck? How can I make this a deck that I want to play and how can I make it work? And following the rules restrictions of Commander, which is singleton format, all this stuff. And over the years that's been a pretty consistent hobby of mine is just building magic decks. I eventually got into playing standard at Friday Night Magic here at a game store close to me, and kept going because there were some cool people who just wanted to play the game. They didn't care about playing the competitive decks and stomping everybody, you know, all that stuff. There weren't that many sweaty players there, and I just kept going because it was fun. I enjoyed doing it, and like, yeah, fast forward to now, uh, I roughly have 16 commander decks and about 8 projects I'm working on there. 4 kind of 5 standard decks. I took one apart that's still halfway together. I just didn't like how it was a landfall deck, and I didn't like the amount of shuffling I had to do while playing in tournaments. Um I have about 6 casual decks, give or take, 2 Oathbreaker decks, 1 project. I think I just need the lands for it. Um, 2 1 Canadian Highlander deck and about 2 projects I'm slowly working on there. 11 Pauper Elder Dragon Highlander decks, which 10 of them are in a self-contained game I made where I could I bet for those of you who play Magic, I based them around the guild. Like I made a deck for each of the guilds, and I made it so that like if kind of newish players want to play the game but don't really want to buy something yet, I could just pull that out like, hey, let's play a game here. This is kind of what the guilds do. Make your decisions from here. Or hey, if you like this place, like tokens, play this deck. If you like that idea, big things, play this deck. Big creatures, play this deck. If you want to stop everybody else from having fun by playing a control deck, here's 2 you can play, so you can lose friends. So that's more so why I built that. I built that. So 10 of those are like a self-contained game. And I have 1 pauper deck. So that's say I got I got obsessed with it. I fell down the rabbit hole. I love building decks. I'm continuing to do it. At some point, I need to stop building and start improving the decks I have. But I've supposed to have done that for the last 3 years and just keep building decks. And that's when that's when I started realizing that I have this creativity inside of me that has to get out one way or another. Whether it's building magic decks where I won't play those decks I won't play those decks all that often. Like commander games take like an hour to sometimes 2 hours if it goes really long. Like there's no I can't play all 16 of those decks in one night. Like I'll play I'll play maybe 1 or 2 games with 1 or 2 of them a month. Standard decks, I get a little bit more mileage out of them, but they're around for less time. But I realized that I would use that time on Saturday mornings through that creative hobby to make things. So why can't I use some of that time to write books? Why can't I use that for a different outlet for my creativity? And so that's when I started working on some of my writing projects. Um Now I do spend I my job has me working out of town on every Tuesday, so every Tuesday I have to stay in a hotel room, and that's where I did do quite a bit of, especially during, writing and researching for individual Christianity. That's where I did a lot of the work there, and the researching was just spending 3, 4 hours reading the books and taking notes, trying to, see what I could learn about this subject, try to make a more polished, more presentable book. Um, but Saturdays, weekend mornings also became, hey, I got to take my highlights and stuff from the books, type it out on the computer so I can, and then organizing those notes into the outline that I have, and then further organizing the notes in the outline so I can have formed a cohesive pattern of thought that actually made sense when I wrote it out onto into the book and all that stuff. So once I realized that I had that creative outlet and how I could use that for writing, it eventually translated into writing books and trying to work more on maybe more productive outlet for creativity. At least it's one other people can enjoy a little bit more easily. And yeah, that's how the how Magic the Gathering got pulled me back into writing. I didn't know that would happen when I was sitting down at a kitchen table years ago trying to figure out how I could make a 5 color deck with all creatures and lands in it. I didn't think about trying to write a fantasy series. I was just trying to learn the new fun game and learn how to build the decks for it. And but eventually learning how to use my creativity and like really understanding that the creativity was there, um eventually that worked into me writing books like I'm trying to do now. And yeah, I've been into the hobby so much I decided to put it in my book as an example because people like to get offended or divided over that subject. So it just fit in and I put it in the book. So yeah, that's how Magic pulled me back into writing. And one other thing I like about Magic the Gathering is there is an expansive amount of lore behind the game. It's not just a game you play. There is a lot of lore behind it. In fact, in some of the earlier years, they would release books. There we go. They would they would release books explaining the lore with each of the sets that came out. Now this book is one my wife had found for me at a thrift store. I think she paid like $1 or $2 for it. And I enjoyed it. It was fun. My only problem with this book was if you knew nothing at all about Magic the Gathering, you would not understand anything that was happening in this book. Even I had played the game and I knew who the Boros was. I knew about the Boros Legion. I knew what Ravnica was, but what are Wojeks? There aren't any Wojek cards. Like, and there's quite a few other things that were like, if you knew nothing about Magic at all, this book would confuse the heck out of you. Um, Now it was fun because it started off as like a detective novel, like investigating a crime scene kind of stuff, but then it evolved more so into the fantasy. Hey, people are trying to destroy the world and we've got to stop it. And so it was a lot. It was a lot of fun, even though I don't like the mass market paperback format, but I held on to it because wife got it for me and I kind of like it. Would like to read more of those, which kind of now I bought this when it came out. This this is the first book they have written for a Magic set since I think War of the Spark, and everybody loves to rant about how poorly written that book is and how bad that book is. So I bought this to try to incentivize them to get back into focusing on the lore instead of just making money. Um, but the book needs to be good. And I've actually got to sit down and read this sometime. This might be a weekend read because I don't know how long it's going to take me to read through the last book and a quarter of the Poppy War trilogy I'm trying to read through. I'm loving it, but it's taking me a little bit of time. Um, but that was another thing I loved about Magic the Gathering that kind of pulled me into it. Like, it's working that creativity muscle about other worlds, other magic systems, like character development, plot development, so some stuff like that that was just kind of built into the game. And what made me love the game, and eventually it helped me get back more so into writing. And with that, I'll give you all a little bit of an update of kind of where I am with some of my writing stuff. Um, my next information book will be on Bible translations. I won't say too much about it, but I've spent the last ye a lot of last year I spent reading books and articles and stuff about Bible translations, um, manuscript evidence, textual criticism, all the fun stuff that's involved with that subject. And I am now in the process of trying to organize all those notes within the outline to try to form a cohesive train of thought so I can actually sit down and write it sometime. And that is about as fun as it seems, because organizing notes about the Byzantine versus the critical text, or the Antioch text, or Byzantine versus critical text, yeah. I'm dealing with that. It's about as fun as it sounds. And this year, I would like to publish a novel that I wrote in college. But I realized in order to polish that up better, I needed to write a sequel to it that I was planning to write anyways, because the sequel happened on the other side of the world, and the one side of the world would affect the other. So I realized in order to polish my first book up, or polish my novel up properly, I needed to write about that other side of the world. So when the characters visited that other side of the world in the first book, I would be able to make the right allusions, the right world building reference hints and stuff like that, so that I could make the first book better and more believable without having to go back and do revisions and stuff on it after I publish the sequel. So that being said, I'm kind of making things complicated for myself. Just like I have so many deck building projects going on with Magic, I am writing my books the same way. And I'm tripping over myself doing it, but um, once again, finances are kind of going to get in the way as well. I've determined in this business to try to operate at the speed of cash. I don't want to go into debt to publish or distribute my books. That's just a determination I've made. And the fact that I will have to pay for a cover artist um for the book because I cannot draw dragons well enough for people to enjoy. Um and the editor will cost a lot more. That's gonna be I'm gonna have to dish out a pretty penny for that. And I will have an audiobook for it, but I don't know if I have the skills to narrate a book on that level with the right voices and everything for that. So I might need it to find a narrator or a narrating team, studio, whatever that looks like. I love the idea of having a full cast for an audiobook, but I don't know what that would cost. So that's where I am with some of my writing stuff. Now, I want to have my audiobook for Individual Christianity out in distributors this week, if not sometime next week. It's all recorded, it's all the files are the right size and everything, right formatting and everything. I just gotta find out the way to get it into the right package with chapter markers and all that, and cover art and all that, so that it can be sent to Libro FM, to the library system, begrudgingly to Audible. Um, I just have to go through the process of actually making it a solid audiobook rather than just an MP3 file or a series of MP3 files. So that's where it's at. About 6, 8 months overdue for getting the um audiobook out into the world, but it's on the way. I'm trying to make it happen. A handful of people have been asking me about that regularly, and I'm trying to make it happen. It just took a lot of time. So that's where I am with some of my writing stuff. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you for hanging out with me and being interested in some of the stuff I'm doing. Hopefully, this video caught at least a little bit of your attention. And I want to remind you before I leave that God loves you and wants, if I could say it strong, well enough, God loves you and wants to spend forever with you.